think the point is we need a spa day. No? Yes? Guys, welcome to the show. Tony Katz. Good to be with you. This is Tony Katz today. My usual go-to during the show, because I happen to have a bunch of them in the humidor, is the Oliva or the Oliva, the V. This is the Maduro, the Melania Maduro. I have the Melania in there as well, but it's what I'm grabbing. I need to place an order. Tell me what you think I should get. The fallout, right? It's Trump v. Zelenskyy. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. And everyone's got an opinion. And everyone's got an opinion because everybody's a tribalist jerkface. What happened, happened. If we don't discuss it honestly, we'll never get anywhere. But these people who want to say that it was a Trump ambush, ridiculous, nonsense, trash, garbage. Allow me to walk you through it. Glad you're here. Radio show is about to begin.
Look, I don't trust or distrust anybody. I just want to get a deal done. And if the deal happens, good. But you can't embolden somebody that does not have the cards. And all of a sudden that person says, oh, well, now I can keep fighting. We're not going to keep fighting. You're going to get the war done or let them go and see what happens. Let them fight it out.
Well, in case you were wondering where President Trump was after the meeting with Vladimir Zelenskyy, it's up to them. But I'm not here to say, hey, we'll help, and then have them say, well, it's great. Now I'm going to go abuse that guy some more, or I'm going to go yell at that guy some more. I'm going to call him names some more. I'm going to make other demands. What we saw in the Oval is not the end of days. It's not the end of times, although admittedly, it was surprising. And while many people immediately ran to their tribalist corners, I wanted to understand it. That's what we did. We broke it down. And I am left in the same place with some of this as I was then. Who in the world thought Trump would just sit there and take that? Why would anybody have wanted Trump to just sit there and take that? If more than a decade ago, Rahm Emanuel was screaming at Benjamin Netanyahu's people, Rahm Emanuel, the then chief of staff to Barack Obama, your blanking leader, meaning Netanyahu, doesn't blanking lecture to our blanking president in the blanking Oval Office. That's the quote. Why was it okay then and not okay now? Why would that ever be okay? I'm a guy who's supportive of Israel. Don't be lecturing the president in the Oval. It's a bad idea. So what is it that actually led to it? Where was the breakdown? Is this a problem? Allow me to help. If I didn't say hello, Tony Katz, the name of the show is Tony Katz Today. You can find the live stream, of course, and comment there on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, on Facebook, LinkedIn as well. And you can call in 833-GOT-TONY. If you go to TonyKatz.com, I ended up writing basically a tome of just letting it all pour out on where I was on Trump, Zelenskyy, Vance. Because I think I'm the only person who has a commentary about J.D. Vance, the vice president, where I say he's the guy who missed the mark. I'm not defending Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy was wrong. I'm not defending Trump. I am surprised anybody is amazed by Trump's response. Now, could Trump have responded differently? Sure, we can discuss that. But I'll get to J.D. Vance. But let's start with the basic. I went through this list and I want to share it with you because I think that there are a lot of places where people are ideological and not rational. First things first, they had a deal and Zelenskyy changed the deal, or at least attempted to. That was the purpose of his response to J.D. Vance when J.D. Vance said we were utilizing diplomacy. Now, J.D. Vance went out of his way to interrupt President Trump in order to say it. That we were engaged in diplomacy. This wasn't Joe Biden. This was a new day and a new group of people. Now, I question then why he wanted to jump in, but it's not the worst thing to jump in with in the world. It was a fine thing for him to say. Not a problem at all. The problem came with Vladimir Zelenskyy then saying, whoa. What diplomacy? are you talking about? We signed this deal with Vladimir Putin. We signed that deal with Vladimir Putin. We signed this contract. We signed that. He reneged on everything. What diplomacy are you talking about? As the people who are upset with President Trump will note, whether they be on the political left or the political right, that is an acceptable question. And the answer there is very difficult considering the amount of times that Vladimir Putin has broken his word. That is not the issue. The issue is the presentation in which Volodymyr Zelenskyy engages this conversation that made it destined to fail and provide him no value whatsoever. My father, may he rest in peace, used to refer to the fact that sometimes somebody will screw you over, but you know why they're screwing you over? It's business, they screw you over. Sometimes you're on the receiving end, sometimes you're on the giving end. That's life. But he said it's the guy who screws you over for no good reason, who gains nothing from it. That's the dangerous person, because they really are operating from a place of sheer madness. What was Volodymyr Zelenskyy going to get from his desire to engage a tongue lashing of the vice president? Now, I will tell you that hearing J.D. Vance's response, I don't think now is the place to litigate the thing. I thought that was J.D. Vance caught a little off his game. J.D. Vance is good. And when he gave the answer to Martha Raddatz about a handful of Venezuelan criminals, gangs taking over apartment complexes, just a handful of apartment complexes. And he said to Martha Raddatz, do you hear yourself? That was the breakthrough moment. That was the moment that everybody knew that's the guy I'm going to vote for. When he gave, when he said to Margaret Brennan of CBS, I really don't care, Margaret. That was a strong moment. The speech about free speech in front of the Munich Security Conference, fantastic. That response to Volodymyr Zelenskyy? Now, I think he was caught a little bit off his game. And even that follow-up, why can't you just say thank you? The president needed you to make somebody grovel? That's what you were trying to get done. It didn't help. Well, this is not a defense of Zelenskyy. This is a clear understanding that J.D. Vance is unbelievably bright and his future is anything he wants it to be. Those two, after his first statement, which was just fine, not his best moments. I know some people won't admit to that because they won't say anything that is seen as possibly untoward toward the administration. Well, I'm not an idol worshiper. It wasn't his best moment. Now, I would believe that Trump would have been fine to let the conversation go, because Trump did not engage until Volodymyr Zelenskyy, in responding to J.D. Vance, said, you've got this nice ocean separating you and Putin, but if we do not stop him, you will see what he does. You will see. Oh, that's the presentation issue. Why in the world, for what reason would Volodymyr Zelenskyy say this? He already has gone after a lecturing of the vice president. Now he's going to do it again. He doubled down. And for all the people who want to say Zelenskyy is a hero and Trump is the villain, stop being ridiculous people and recognize what happened in the Oval Office. The Oval Office, this seat of power, the power of the United States. That's what makes it so important. Trump knows where he is. The only person who ever avoided the Oval Office is Barack Obama. If you go back and watch Barack Obama speeches, they did not come from the Oval. The Oval is the seat of power. And in the seat of power, you're going to basically threaten the president? That's crazy talk. That is a maddening proposition. And to think that a president should just sit there and take it is silly. Silly. I bring this up because it is clear, no matter who you are, that all this talk about an ambush is leftist claptrap nonsense. Vladimir Zelenskyy did this to himself. He didn't have to go down this road. Vladimir Zelenskyy did this to himself. That much is obvious. The idea that Trump is a Putin puppet or a Russian agent is daft. It's the same old boring conversation. It's ignorance. It's Trump derangement syndrome. It's ridiculous. Now, you could argue that Trump could have handled it differently. Zelenskyy is fighting for his life. He's fighting for the life of his people. They've lost 1 million plus. They're going to lose more. They need a way out. They're looking to get the help. They want the help. Be a nation that helps them. Don't be a nation that hits a guy while he's down. I think that that is a fine thing to say. A fine thing to say. But it would have had more weight if Trump had just started saying, you know, these clowns in Ukraine, they don't know how to do nothing. You guys, man, if it wasn't for us, you'd just be dead already. So why don't you kiss the ring and say thanks and let me have a go at your mother and all the rest. None of that happened. Zelenskyy started down this road first. Trump came to the table. Hate him, like him, don't care. Trump came to the table, and on 3 different occasions, a 1, then the 2, then the 3. Look at me, I'm like Lawrence Welk. 3 different occasions, Trump's team came to the table. Came to the table on a mineral rights deal. This was the 3rd time. Once at the Munich Security Conference, once in Ukraine, and this. And for a 3rd time, Vladimir Zelenskyy found a way not to sign that minerals deal. Now, maybe it's because, as many are reporting, that Zelenskyy has a mineral rights deal with the United Kingdom that was signed 3 days before Trump took office. I get that people are saying that. I get that people are putting it out there, that this whole thing was just a scam to try and get more security. Even Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has said, we, the United Kingdom, are going to put troops on the ground. I don't know what that could possibly look like, but we need security reinforcement from Trump. So that's left a lot of people saying, whoa. You're going to get the mineral rights deal and the billions of dollars, and we're just going to put up the bodies to make you rich? We're forgetting that Trump and his team are not fools, and they would have had to have known this about the UK before they put their deal out there. I assume that there might be enough for everybody, and there could be multiple deals. That would be my assumption. So let's not think that the Trump administration walked in here blind, not knowing that there was a deal with the UK. If you're going to have a deal that brings you these mineral rights, right? We're going to get these mineral rights and the rare earth minerals, and we're going to give the money to them and do this and do that. If we're going to invest billions of dollars, as we were discussing last week, you would think we're going to protect our investment. Why would Vladimir Zelenskyy have to now scream for other security assurances when the multi-billion-dollar investment of the United States would assure him that we would be there to keep the country safe because we have investments at play? Important investments we want to keep China from. Who knows? Maybe Zelensky's blowing up the deal so he can get a better offer from China or from the whole of Europe, for all I know. What is it that Zelenskyy was trying to accomplish in that meeting? What I said after watching it, we caught it a bit live, and then we broke it down. And for some people, it's like, I don't think I've ever seen Tony speechless before. It's because I had to understand what I was looking at. Some people, they're so desperate to be first, and they think it means something to I gotta get this out there. I gotta get the clicks. I want to know what's going on. But I left that watching that thing, and I told you this. I couldn't understand what Zelenskyy is going for. I'm not going to be able to sleep It's like an earwig. It's going to just keep running in my head. What is Zelenskyy doing? What is Zelenskyy doing? What is Zelenskyy doing? What is Zelenskyy doing? People make moves for a series of reasons. They make moves for economics, or they make moves for power, right? Leverage to another thing, personal gratification, which can be seen as power, right? So ego, power, ego, money. That's why people make moves. Somewhere, Vladimir Zelenskyy got one of those things. He got power, he got ego, or he got money. Maybe he was able to get the whole of Europe to be more on his side and make these claims that they're going to do this and do that and do the other. As Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army, will explain, nothing happens without the United States. Europe can't actually take on the threat of Russia, and they know it. I have got much on this meeting. I have got it all written there over at TonyKatz.com, and I break it down. But I want to start with the first part. Trump could have said anything. Trump could have niced it out, but he was under no pretext to do so. And I must admit that the people who claim that this was a Trump ambush, these are despicable low-life frauds, including Geraldo Rivera in this case, making this kind of evil claim, including Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. This was no ambush. This wasn't Trump. Even the first comment by J.D. Vance could have been left alone by Vladimir Zelenskyy. None of this had to take place. They could have gone to lunch, signed a deal, had a press conference, and had a sensible dinner. Zelenskyy did this. And the idea that Trump isn't going to defend America in the Oval is so insane as to be believed. I don't fault the man at all. Could you have handled it differently? Certainly. Does this mean the way it was handled was the worst? No. But it does show that foreign policy has indeed changed. It's changed in the United States. I'm not 100% sure if I love it, but I am 100% sure that we have to deal with the reality that is. The reality that is that Zelenskyy and Ukraine cannot survive a protracted war with Russia. The reality may very well be Russia wants this war to end because nothing's gone the way they wanted to. Reality is Trump campaigned on ending the war, and however he could say, I ended it, that's what matters most. And it could be that Zelenskyy and Trump simply have competing interests. But it's for Zelenskyy to have to deal with, because he's the guy who needs the help. I have got much more on this. Have no fear. And it's not the only story of the day. Wait till you hear about border crossings. That's coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. All right. Guys, welcome back. Sorry, I was just leaving some notes. Good to be with you. Is that camera a little close? Are we good? There we go. Good to be with you. Don't start none, won't be none. I get the argument. I do. We're gonna remind me to get into what the security guarantees mean a little bit, and get into the idea of what will happen with a future deal. Everybody was so desperate to like the super hot take, and this weekend, if you Twitter this weekend, 1 minute was that? Twitter this weekend was the definition of stupid. People talking over each other, people just yelling random things. I live in Indiana, and Representative Victoria Spartz is my congresswoman. And someone wrote, Victoria Spartz is a Russian asset. What are you supposed to say to that? Bless your soul. You know, you really are something there. All right, we're coming back in 30 seconds. Let's see where I am. Just making sure I've got everything together, guys. You know, we do a radio show as well, right? There we go. Got it.
I know you have been asked this before, Mr. Speaker, but I need to get you on the record here again. Are cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security off the table?
Yes, and don't take my word for it, Kristen. Go do a word search of the budget resolution that we passed on Tuesday. There is not one mention of Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. It's not in the bill because we haven't set the policy. What we're trying to do is get America back on sound fiscal ground. We have a $36 trillion federal debt and ballooning deficits. The Republican Party is the party of fiscal responsibility. The American people want us to review the expenditures of the country and get our fiscal house in order, and that's what we must do.
That is factual. We do want the fiscal house in order. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Speaker Mike Johnson on Meet the Press. It doesn't matter if Medicare or Medicaid are in the legislation or not. The left is going to just keep on saying it. They're going to keep on and keep on and keep on and keep on. If you were to listen to people like Hakeem Jeffries, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing, it will be a continuation of this fraud, this lie about what the Republicans are doing and what they're after. Then again, these are the people who will tell you that they are the ones protecting the border. There was a whole thing in Politico about how the Democrats have gotten together and they had a meeting and they understand now how they lost and what they're going to work on. I'm going to go over that list with you. But part of what they're going to do is the same old, same old. Continue to lie about the things they lie about and engage fear in people of certain age groups and certain demographics. The only question is, after hearing that lie so many times, you think it works? So what happens if it doesn't work? Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. I went long in the first segment. Sorry about that. Glad you guys are here. Tell your friends. Let's get in there. And ask your questions. People putting out an interesting story here. Jen Psaki's sister worked for something called Population Council International, which received hundreds of millions of dollars from USAID. Okay. Am I the only one who got no money from USAID? Shame on me. I'm the only one who hasn't figured out how to get some sweet, sweet government cash. It is incredible. All right, I'm just going through some stuff as we speak. Got questions? I have got answers, or at least I will try to. Just put a comment in there wherever it is you're watching. I'd be thrilled to have it. Got some stories out of Israel. Of course, I've got an update on Gene Hackman as well. Let me get to that. And Trump is scheduled to speak today about investments. So I'm looking forward to that. Hope to be able to bring that to you in full. I got that. I got that. Oh, and did you hear Bill Murray? Oh, it's so good. It is so good. This brings up something called the Gelman amnesia effect, which I've always gotten the author wrong. It's Michael Crichton. And it's so good. It's so smart. And so I'll bring that to you as well. And I got to order more cigars. That's got to happen. Oddly enough, cigars do not just magically appear at my house. They should, but they don't. Bunch of savagery, if you ask me. No, Gene Hackman did not live next to Jeffrey Epstein. What happened to Hackman is this? It's such an ugly, awful story. Absolutely terrible. But I still don't know if there was any funny business, but man, it's not a great scene. And right now I'm looking at cigars on sale. So I look at what's online and then I'm like, okay, what are the local shops I can hit? I try and shop locally whenever I can. Doesn't mean I'm always successful. Sometimes there's just a good deal. But I try my best to support the local people. All right, we're coming back to the radio show. We'll go from there. Glad you guys are here. Music in 5 seconds. Love it. That's what other people are doing while they're watching the show.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
You wanted to make sure people who were in the country illegally knew how to get out of it. You're a pretty gross person. You were offering guidance. Were you not? Were you not, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, offering guidance to people here illegally on how to evade immigration and customs enforcement? Is it not true that you have chosen a side and that side is not America? Can you admit that someone is illegal? Can you tell us what a woman is? Anything? Anything at all? Bueller? That's what we thought. Dear Lord, how does she not have a primary challenge that matters? Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Find everything at tonykatz.com. Oh, people asking, where is my Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez music? I apologize. Yeah. Happy to help. Happy to do my part. Meanwhile, I'll get into a conversation on where border crossings are and how amazingly Trump was able to get done what Joe Biden couldn't get done without the passing of any new legislation. Shocking, but true. No, the death of Gene Hackman, not carbon monoxide poisoning. You can keep telling me that there was no foul play, but the whole thing, his wife, he was 95. His wife was 65. And then the dog. Did they all eat something? Right? They fed a little to the dog. They all ate something and they all passed. Were they poisoned? It was 9 days before anybody found them. Partially mummified. I don't know what one does with that information, except go, man, that's weird. But it wasn't carbon monoxide. And from what we're being told, the deaths are still unknown. This brings us to Bill Murray. Bill Murray went on with Joe Rogan, went on the podcast. And the best, he's like, yeah, Joe, I have no idea who you are. I don't know. I don't know who you are. Let's talk. And Bill Murray tells a story that is this spectacular example of something called the Gelman effect. This is Michael Crichton who this gets attributed to. And I've discussed it before, that what happens is you see an article in a newspaper. You see an article in a newspaper. There you go. And you're like, man, nothing in this article, it makes sense. Nothing in this article is factual. Nothing in this article is true. This whole thing is completely and totally ridiculous, right? Then you read the next article in the newspaper and you're like, wow, that's a fascinating story. I can't believe that's happening. Why is that? Why is it that at one moment you're reading something, you're like, that is completely unbelievable? No one would believe that. That is totally wrong. They got every part of the story wrong. And then the next article, right next to it in the same paper, you're like, that's fascinating. That must be true. That amnesia that takes place right there. Well, Bill Murray is talking to Joe Rogan about Bob Woodward and Bob Woodward's book. Bob Woodward's book, which is called Wired. Now, Wired is a book about John Belushi's life. It's been out for a while. Well, here is Bill Murray on the podcast explaining what happened when he started reading Wired.
Wired, the book written by, what's his name, Woodward, about Belushi. I read like 5 pages of Wired, and I went, oh my God. They framed Nixon. like all of a sudden I went, oh my God, if this is what he writes about my friend that I've known, for half my adult life, which is completely inaccurate, talking to like the people of the outer circle getting the story. What the hell could they have done to Nixon? I just felt like if he did this to my friend like this, And I acknowledge I only read 5 pages, but the 5 pages I read, made me want to set fire to the whole thing.
Jamie, see if you can
Those
find
5 pages, I went, if he did this to Belushi, what he did to Nixon is probably soiled for me.
Now, a couple things to take from there. Anytime Bob Woodward gets punched in the face, I'm very okay with it. I don't have a reason except I'm sorry. The idea that I should still be paying attention to Bob Woodward these days is laughable. But I think that it's what it shows is something that's very valuable. He took something that happened to him, something he saw and he knew, and then applied it to everything else, as opposed to engaging this Gelman effect and believing it, which happens to the vast majority of people. The presence of mind to say, well, if this is what he's saying here, and he's so absolutely full of crap wrong, why would I believe the other thing? I am big on this idea that we should be more questioning people. That trust but verify is very real. And when someone engages with us, the fraud, we shouldn't take them at their word the second time. Isn't this exactly what the New York Times said to us? The New York Times said in the first term, when Trump was running for president, they said we have to go against our journalistic principles to save, I don't know, the Constitution or America, whatever it is. And then Trump wins, and they said, okay, now we're going to get back to journalism. We were talking about it then. Why would I ever trust you again? Why would I listen to you? You were one of the outlets, the Washington Post, and a whole bunch of others, that told the New York Post that their story about Hunter Biden's laptop was total garbage and disinformation, and dismissed it. Why would I listen to you again? Yet you will see the number of people who will quote the New York Times or quote the Washington Post or quote this as if somehow it matters. Why would you believe them from the word go? You only believe them if you can get other pieces of information that validate the statement. And it's our job to do this. And I love the fact that Bill Murray, it's in the hole. Bill Murray. Go get him, Ray. Bill Murray. I'm sailing. Yeah, he's got a lot of good lines in his career. He's pointing this out. And Bill Murray, by the way, you take a look at his the parts that he plays and how he plays them. There is something philosophical to all of it. There is something almost redemption arc in him trying to find himself as a man, if you will, to a fair amount of his work. Right? He's got he has a sensibility that Bill Murray plays to, and I don't think a lot of people notice that. They should. Am I going too deep into the movies? Possibly, but honestly, Meatballs, that's fine work. It just doesn't matter. See, the guy's got a ton of lines. Just because it gets said doesn't make it true. And if you know in your soul that this thing being said here is a line of crap, why are we believing the other thing? Why do we do that? And why do we engage it like somehow it should be engaged for anything other than the fraud that it is? Bill Murray's comments there, I think, matter greatly, and I may be bigger than anybody is giving him credit for. Valuable as can be. Meanwhile, there is a measles outbreak in Texas, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's the Health and Human Services Secretary, is telling people to get vaccinated. So, sir, your move, anti-vax weirdos. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Asking this question out of ignorance, no disrespect intended. Cool. Hey, Andrew. From the aspect of the military industrial complex, could the same conversation between Trump and Netanyahu be had over Gaza? The answer could be yes. But I think that in this case, the argument is different. Israel does not need the United States to destroy Hamas. Ukraine needs the United States to survive Russia. So I would argue that only on their face do they look like parallel situations. Once you dig underneath, they're much different conversations. And yeah, of course, this is the platform for this. 1,000%. This is the place for all of it. Leave your comments. Love to talk. So that's where it's at. You could argue that what the United States wants is a peace with Israel and Hamas. But Hamas is a designated terrorist organization. Hamas murdered 1,200 people. Israel can clearly take out Hamas if they wanted to just simply eliminate Hamas altogether, which yes, please. The issue here is the restraint that they're showing, and the world being a bunch of horrific progressives who somehow want to make the claim, like they did at the Oscars last night, that Israel's to blame and Hamas doesn't even get mentioned. Don't tell me about the horror in Gaza, Academy Award winners, with your documentary. Admit that Hamas is a terrorist organization that needs to be destroyed. Then work with the Israelis to destroy them. Then maybe good things happen. When terrorists are gone, usually better things can take place. And thank you for calling me the best. You didn't have to do that, but I'll take it. Good gosh. All right, what else we have? How soon till we're back? Oh, we're coming back right now. Groovy, groovy, groovy. I love it. 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 It won't come as a surprise to learn that Dr. Patrizia Cavazzoni will be the executive vice president and chief medical officer for Pfizer. It won't come as a surprise. They hired a doctor to be their executive vice president and chief medical officer. What might get you is that until January 18th, Cavazzoni held the job of director of the Food and Drug Administration Center for Drug Evaluation and Research. She was a regulator, if not the top regulator, for the FDA, meaning the approval of all the vaccines for COVID. And now she gets a job at Pfizer where she was giving approvals. Perfect. If that doesn't explain government, that doesn't explain the gross interactions and the morbidness of the interplay. If that does not change people's minds in what we should allow after government service, and I never want to get in the way of that. Let people go live their lives, serve their country, and then do other things. But holy hell, is this ugly as sin? Tony Katz today. You've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr. talking about the importance of MMR vaccines, mumps, measles, rubella. You have this outbreak in Texas, which I argue can be connected to illegal immigration. And if you say to me you can't prove that, I'll say to you, bring on the studies. You allowed until very recently, I mean, border crossings are down massively. I'll get into that. You allowed until recently all this unfettered illegal immigration from nations that don't have the sanitary standards that we do and don't have the medical standards we do. It's not surprising that you might see an issue in this case. And so now you're seeing these outbreaks, and he's telling people to get vaccinated, writing an op-ed at Fox with the headline, "Measles outbreak is call to action for all of us. MMR vaccine is crucial to avoid potentially deadly disease." He's not wrong. Now, I think some people are going to say, I thought he was the guy opposed to vaccines. No, he is clearly opposed to recklessness when it comes to vaccines. Remember, I was opposed to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he's a Democrat. Because he wanted to, 10 years ago, put people in jail who didn't believe in global warming. Because he absolutely believes in styles of wealth redistribution vis-a-vis taxation. Because he's got a terrible position on abortion. There are many reasons why he should not be a cabinet member. Advocating on vaccine health and vaccine safety, I think, is totally fine. People having an open conversation about the data is totally fine. They should. And saying that the MMR vaccine works, we have this massive track record of its success. Let's keep that going. And let's make sure that we keep citizens vaccinated so we can keep up the herd vaccination concept and deal with the fact that we've allowed in, through the Biden administration, that failed, ridiculous, pathetic, low-life Biden administration that clearly was lying to Americans regarding the border and border safety, that we now have to protect Americans, protect ourselves from these viruses and from these issues that we've allowed to just enter through the border. That isn't hateful, by the way. That's honest. Honest is not hateful. I can give you hateful. Because I can start going over what people wore to the Oscars yesterday and just be, ew, David. There's a lot of people who don't know how to put it together. Oh, they think they're high fashion, and we think that they were just high. But he's right. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is right. Get vaccinated for measles. And the issue in Texas will come to your state if we don't take care of it now. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, I'm going to take the break for a little bit. We're at the radio show, so we're going to come back a little bit after the top of the hour. Then Trump is scheduled to speak. By the way, did you see him with Zelenskyy? And he's talking like this. You listen to me. You listen. Hey, don't make me angry, all right? You don't quite understand what's going on here is with you people and this guy and this thing and whatever it is, all right? He was doing that. That, first of all, Paulie Walnuts. Sopranos, Paulie Walnuts just do that all the time. T, what are you doing? But it's so New York terrific. It's so New York. Sometimes, depending on my conversation, I'll throw in one of these. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty good at this, but this is a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a Kavorka thing. I don't know what that is, but I do it every now and again. Oh, so terrific. I will catch you guys in a little bit. Keep it here. We will be right back. And just like that, welcome back. My name is Tony Katz, and it's just a radio show. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, shall we? Good to be with you. Okay, a quick thing to share. First of all, Tony Katz, if you don't know me, Tony Katz today. There is a weird thing that I keep hearing about myself as a radio host. And I have heard more than one person say he plays it down the middle. The extent to which I am offended by this cannot be stated strongly enough. I am not down the middle. I am a conservative from the word go. I think what gets people is that I'm not screaming and yelling, and I say, okay, here's what's being presented. Here's what they're saying. Here's what I'm saying. Like somehow that has been taken as down the middle, and that's I maybe they mean it as a compliment, yet I'm the one who takes it as offensive. Is that weird? Am I wrong? Because it's like it's like a misrepresentation of what I do. I'm on the political right. I want to share that story time and again and again and again. Because I think it provides more value. I've seen what the other side provides, and I think it sucks. If that's down the middle, okay. But it's like I think they mean it to try and denigrate. And I guess I can't figure it out. Music in 5 seconds. Thank you, producer Landon. I appreciate that.
Years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. He does not have this kind of good background. And in fact, while there's some disruption over that, I sincerely ask you all to examine what expertise he has in approving medical devices, in biomedical engineering devices. And if you all think that he is an expert in that, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you. Doge did not exist.
Something tells me that Democrats would indeed have a bridge to nowhere to sell you. I have no doubt that Representative Ocasio-Cortez has a bridge to nowhere to sell you. Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. Elon Musk is not a scientist, but he's going to Mars. This argument being made to develop and gin up and continue the hatred towards Musk, can I tell you, I have never once had an interest in a Tesla. Ever. I have a friend who has a Tesla. Oh, he loves it. Oh, he's never so happy. Look, it'll move forward, it'll move backward. It'll get out of the parking space for you. Oh, look what it can do. Oh, check out this mode and check out that mode. And the smile on his face. The man has never been so happy. And I'm like, cool. But if people are really trading in their Teslas and turning in their Teslas, I got to assume it's an opportunity for a good deal. I'll give it a go for a while. But I'd get the Plaid, right? What's the one that goes 1,900 miles an hour? That's Plaid, isn't it? I'm not getting Cybertruck. No. All right, if the deal's right. Otherwise, absolutely not. Ginning up the hate. That is the name of the game. That's exactly what we saw in the aftermath of Trump's conversation with Vladimir Zelenskyy. A pure ginning up of the hate, not based at all on the facts. The facts are that Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelenskyy have two very different views of the fight. Zelenskyy is knee deep in it. And he could have turned tail and ran 3 years ago. He could have left the country and been on the outside, and he was exiled, and look what Russia's doing. He stayed and he fought. He stayed. I think that part is respectable and worthy of respect. And I absolutely think that it got the respect of his countrymen in a big, large, and profound way. From that, he went on to engage conversations and engage with the United States in a way that provided him no value. For example, that photo shoot, was it for Vanity Fair that Annie Leibovitz did with him and his wife? Why are you engaged in a photo shoot? You're fighting for your life. You don't do photo shoots. Certainly, you could have them taking pictures of you while you're on the battlefield, inspiring the troops. Sure, you're doing a glamour shots with your wife and Annie Leibovitz. Bad look. Really bad look. Incredibly stupid. Then, at every turn, you asked for more. But you never engaged what was actually happening. That actually doesn't come till really the conversation with Trump, where you're stating that you can go through all of the diplomacy things you want, but you can't trust Putin. So what good is diplomacy? It's a legitimate question. But the presentation from Zelenskyy in that Oval Office conversation on Friday with President Trump and J.D. Vance was awful. His presentation, Zelenskyy's presentation, was awful. The argument that I've seen made from those on the political right who favor support of Ukraine, and for the record, I'm one of those people. I support bullets and I support guns for Ukraine to fight the Russians. I do not support money going to pension funds or anything else. That's not my job. That's your job, Ukraine. But help to fight against what is Russian brutality? Sure. Here are guns and here are bullets. Go get them. I've been like this for years. I have not changed off of it. You guys know this. Even I, who you've disagreed with possibly in this conversation, take a look at this Oval Office meeting and say, I don't know what Zelenskyy's doing, but his presentation was sizzling hot garbage. He created the friction. He clearly wanted to. There's no other reason for it. There's no other explanation. Over at TonyKatz.com, I wrote some initial thoughts about what I saw taking place. And what is it that I think happened? Why did Zelenskyy blow this up? It was not Trump. Trump responded in exactly the way you knew Trump was going to respond when you voted for him. He is who we thought he is. And no one in MAGAville, or no one who is an honest broker, is surprised. The political left not being able to have a response here except to say, oh my gosh, because it was an oh my gosh moment, have decided that this was a planned Trump ambush. No part of that is true. No part of that has any basis in fact whatsoever. And so therefore, it's something that's talked about by people like Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut and Geraldo Rivera. Two guys who deserve each other for the kind of nonsense they spew. What was Zelenskyy trying to get accomplished? That's where we left off. So I put forth some ideas. What the hell was Zelenskyy doing, and what the hell does he want? Well, let's start with what he wants. Let's start with what his point was. His point is that diplomacy with Putin cannot work. Only force can work to get him to stop. And what he wants from the United States are security guarantees. Security guarantees means an active military force on the ground in Ukraine in perpetuity to blunt Russian aggression. That's what it means. There is no other conversation to what it means. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, left nothing to the imagination. This is it. That's what Ukraine wants, meaning Volodymyr Zelenskyy wants. And he thought the Oval Office, cameras, was the right time to do it. Not say, guys, we got the mineral rights deal done. Man, I need this. This is how we're going to survive. I really could use this help. We're the ones fighting this aggression. You're better off with Putin damaged and weakened anyway. So let me continue to do this with your help and with your hardware and with your dollars. And yes, if you could put some troops down the ground. I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying we should at all. I'm saying there was a place for it. You can argue that Zelenskyy thought that this was the right place for it, and he just miscalculated. Okay, he miscalculated. You can argue, well, you see, he spoke with the Democrats, no matter what the Democrats say. He spoke with the Democrats before meeting with Trump, and maybe they ginned him up to turn down the deal or try and push for a better deal right there and then. Well, then he got craptastic advice, and he can easily be emotionally swayed, which is not an attractive look in a world leader nor a neighbor. Just say, nor a spouse. I mean, unless you're somebody who thinks that you should like manipulate your spouse instead of having a life with your spouse, in which case you're the problem. If the Democrats ginned him up to dismiss the deal, the Democrats did more to damage Ukraine than Trump any day of the week. But I want to get back to this mineral rights deal where Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has been stalling. He has been stalling for weeks on a mineral rights deal. This is the third chance he's had to sign it. He didn't sign it. So the mineral rights deal is the precursor to a peace deal, as Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, explained to Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation.
He called it the first step towards security guarantees. It's not enough. We need more than just that. A ceasefire without security guarantees is dangerous for Ukraine. Is the deal still on the table, or has President Trump instructed you to drop the project?
Margaret, it is impossible to have an economic deal without a peace deal. The sine qua non for an economic deal is that Ukrainian leadership wants a peace deal.
I thought this was a building block towards getting to a peace deal.
It was supposed to be, but President Zelenskyy came into the Oval on Friday. There were three things that were going to be done. There was going to be a press conference. There was going to be a private lunch with 16 of us. And as you could see from Dan Scavino's the post on his X account, we were already set up to sign the deal. So it's unclear now. President Zelenskyy has thrown off the sequencing. And Margaret, let me tell you the most tragic part of this. The President Trump's idea for this economic arrangement was to further intertwine the American people and the Ukrainian people and show no daylight, to show the Russian leader.
Now, people forget this. We don't. That if you are going to engage a mineral rights deal, you are going to protect your investments. And no one from MAGAville should be able to question that if that is the case, then we were going to have a presence in Ukraine. And we were going to be a de facto protectorate of Ukraine with this deal on mineral rights. There's just no conversation there. Of course, that's the way it was going to be. Zelenskyy had to know that. Why did he blow this up? Why did he blow it up? So let me give you some theories. I cannot prove the theory. I'm only giving a theory. What if, and all credit on this in this conversation to my brother, the good Dr. Katz. What if he thinks the Russians are in worse shape? What if he thinks the Russians are in worse shape? And what if he was able to engage with President Trump early? Maybe the whole thing is a ruse. Putin's so bloodied over these last 3 years, and now he has to rely on getting conscripts from Moscow and St. Petersburg. The war will not be popular if Moscow and St. Petersburg are now having to give up their men and women, their boys and girls to fight. instead of the outlying areas in the Ural Mountains, etc., instead of importing the warfare, the warmongers from North Korea. Maybe things go on. Maybe you don't get to a peace, and eventually it's Putin who has to come to the table, and you can put yourself in a stronger position. That's a risk right there. That is a risk right there. Perhaps what Zelenskyy is doing is shopping for a bigger and better buyer, bigger deal, bigger buyer. Anybody see what China's doing with rare earth minerals in Ukraine lately? Maybe they're at the table, which creates a whole problem. Certainly for Europe, if China is going to become the hero of Ukraine, and since you know that China already sees Russia as a vassal state that they control with dollars, well, then that can't work out well for the Ukrainians at all. There's no way they could see that deal as valuable. So maybe they thought they were going to get a better deal. Maybe they thought no deal would mean a faster decline for Putin, and he would come to the table with a better deal. People do things for the money. They do things for the leverage. They do things for the power. If Zelenskyy wasn't doing one of those things in engaging Trump and Vance the way he did, then what the hell is he doing? This brings us to whether or not a deal could take place at all. And the people who are saying there's no deal, they're never going to have a deal again, these people are children, guys. These are amongst the most daft and ignorant and ridiculous people. This is about the rules of Trumpism, which I coined back in 2017. There are two rules of Trumpism that I refer to as the first two rules of Trumpism, only because I haven't really been able to add a third rule yet after all these years. The first rule of Trumpism, Trump wins. The second rule of Trumpism, a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism, which is, of course, Trump wins. Of course, a deal can be made between Ukraine and the United States on rare earth minerals. Of course, it can be done. Question is, will it? And I can tell you this. You can't have a peace deal that then says the security assurances. No deal is going to involve the United States setting up shop in a public way for forever in Ukraine. But the investment regarding rare earth minerals is the guarantee, just not so official. Zelenskyy should have been aware of that. And you have to know that it's happening. Europe needs to be more at the table. Now, Europe is starting to notice its own problems. When the UK says that they're going to take troops and they're going to put them there on the ground in Ukraine, what troops? The same UK that is getting swallowed by Islamists day after day, that UK is now going to put troops on the ground. They're going to be the big fighters. Okay, sure. Whatever it is that you say. At this rate, you don't have a country in a decade, but sure. I'm saying a decade. It might take two. Europe's survival against Russia means they need to pay up and put up. And perhaps they will. That certainly seems to be the case. But they know without U.S. backing, their options are limited. So when people say there's no deal that can be made, no. A deal has to get made. The Europeans need it even more than Ukraine. Because what else is going to be their defense against Russian aggression? I leave it there. We've got much more to get to. This is Tony Katz today. I didn't see the time at all. At all. See, when you're just doing the stream, you can go on. Like, and then you can bring it this way and that way. When you get the radio show, you got those breaks. You got those breaks and you got to hit them. There are rules. This is not Vietnam. There are rules. All right. Trump is still making this announcement. A $100 billion investment being announced by Taiwan Semiconductor. I'll take that. I'll take that. Thank you very much. And you know he's going to answer questions about Ukraine. You know he is. You know it's coming. I know it's coming. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be very, very exciting. Sorry, guys, just getting ready for what's next. To Bristolian, over there on Rumble. Good to have you here. I have no idea if the Logan Act is still a thing. The way people abuse it. Oh man, if I could spell, I'd be so dangerous. There it is. Oh, so you're from the UK, Bristolian. The UK, my country, cannot protect our borders, let alone Ukraine's. We only have 40 functioning tanks. We do not have the ability to field one division. Now, as I know it, you have more than 40 functioning tanks. All right? There's a lot of misinformation going on out there. What you got, I think, is more of a manpower issue than anything else. Right? That is my take. For sure. And by the way, Starmer is delusional, and the EU recognizing that they don't exist without the United States, that the whole conversation regarding NATO, which I don't feel the need to end. The UN we have to walk away from. NATO is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We are NATO. If we're not there, there is no NATO. The problem is NATO is too big. It is. I have made this argument many times. I think that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization is just too large. Just too large. What do you got there, producer Landon? 1 minute. Fantastic. So right now I'm looking at cigars. I'm smoking the Oliva. I'm smoking the Maduro Melanio right here. I just need to order some more. I usually like to purchase local is where I like to be. But when sometimes I can't, sometimes there are deals, and so I do it. Oh, there's a deal on Epic. Epic makes a lovely cigar. EPIC. Dean Parson is his name. And they make the 10-year. The 10-year Epic, I think, is an excellent smoke. Utilize that where you will. We're coming back. Fantastic then. Coming back, guys. Border crossings are down. We were told something by the Biden administration. What we were told is that we have to change the law. Joe Biden said, give me the power to fix the border. Give me the power to do it. I've been asking for it since day one. Wanting some legislation here, legislation there to change things. Trump didn't need no stinking legislation. He just went about changing things. And it's better. Tony Katz today, CBS News, reporting that there were 8,450 apprehensions of migrants who crossed into the country last month. Some days during the Biden administration, it was 8,000 plus apprehensions a day. And now we're at 8,450 for the entire month. Trump is able to secure the border, and Joe Biden refused to secure the border. It's not that he couldn't, he refused. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Alejandro Mayorkas and Corinne Jean-Pierre, their mouthpiece, and all the rest of the progressive left, including Ocasio-Cortez and that despicable dopey squad, they didn't want to do anything about the border when they could have, when they should have. The proof is in the reality. Here it is. Here are the numbers. Trump needed no special legislation, just utilizing what's already on the books. And now he's going to announce $100 billion coming in to the country. If he does it, I'll have it for you. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz. Good to be with you. Just sending out a text real quick. All right, let's see where we are with Trump, because I want to hear this. It's he's not live yet. Oh, sure, they delayed it. Of course they did. Every single time. Every single time. That's all right. I've got some other things to get to. All right, 1 minute. I hear you. Let's see. Where is this? And then the FBI right there. Got it all together. Appreciate all the comments and stuff. Sharon, hello. Right there. Yes, Freddie, anything with syrup on top is good. Is good, except communism. You can't mask that despicable taste. Nope. Kathleen, it turns out, doesn't like pancakes. I'm sorry, Kathleen, but you can no longer be here. I apologize. That's just not going to work. How can you not like pancakes? They're delicious. Doesn't make any sense. Whole thing doesn't make any sense. The Oscars, they take place yesterday. And now I can't tell you I know any of the movies. And I there's real anger with the Best Picture because here you had the opportunity. Well, I think it was The Brutalist that everybody thought was going to be the fan favorite. And you're like, no, Hollywood went for the porn. It's not actually a porn, but it's kind of. If Hollywood wants to be what Hollywood is, let them be. Yeah. All I know is if you have rules for you can only get a Best Picture nomination if you have a cast that has this kind of person, this kind of person, this kind of person, and you think that that's normal, chances are we're not going to be great friends. We're not going to make movies together. That said, I think I'd like making a movie. I know I don't want to direct. I think I could produce pretty well. I think I could solve problems and keep things going and keep the train on, on the tracks. I think I could do that. Oh, in front of the camera, please, I'd be I'd make the latest swoon. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. So you have these people, and one of the people who wins is Kieran Culkin. And you're like, I'm sorry, how do I know that name? Kieran Culkin, meaning the brother of Macaulay Culkin. Yes, Home Alone Macaulay Culkin. Well, Kieran has been an actor and doing things and working and all sorts of stuff. And he wins an Oscar for his part in this movie by Jesse Eisenberg. And I again haven't seen the movie, don't know the movie. I just it's called A Real Pain. I don't know the film. Neither here nor there. All I know is he's at the Academy Awards. His wife Jazz is there, so he decides to engage this nugget.
I love you, Jazz. This is, I have to thank my wife, Jazz, for absolutely everything, for giving my favorite people in the world. Please don't play the music because I want to tell a really quick story about Jazz. About a year ago, I was on a stage like this and I very stupidly publicly said that I want a third kid from her because she said if I won the award, she would give me the kid. It turns out she said that because she didn't think I was going to win. But and people came up to her and were like, really annoying her. I think it got to her. But anyway, after the show, we're walking through a parking lot. She's holding the Emmy. We're trying to find our car. Emily, you were there, so you're a witness. And she goes, oh, God, I did say that. I guess I owe you a third kid. And I turned to her and I said, really, I want 4. And she turned to me. I swear to God, this happened. It was just over a year ago. She said, I will give you 4 when you win an Oscar. I held my hand out. She shook it. And I have not brought it up once until just now. You remember that, honey? You do? Okay. Then I just have this to say to you, Jazz. Love of my life, ye of little faith. No pressure. I love you. I'm really sorry I did this again. And let's get cracking on those kids. What do you say?
I'm sorry, that's funny. That is funny and delightful and kind of uplifting. And, people want to glom on and grab on. Yeah, let's support the family. Have more kids. That's great. Yeah. Good on you. Go get them. Have fun. Go have a 4th kid. I think it's hilarious. I mean, the way he told the story is hilarious. I think having a 4th kid is pretty awesome. Pretty terrific. I often discuss the fact that I love my kids. I wouldn't change anything. If I could have planned some things out differently, I would have had more. Yeah, no doubt. Now there are reasons why it didn't work that way, and I don't say no to that. We took a very responsible route, and the truth is, I think I could have survived the irresponsibility. I really do. I really and truly do. But it was sweet. And it was like this. Oh, well, look, here's a normal moment at you're like, I could like these people. And this is the same Hollywood that gave an Oscar to this movie about Gaza. It was a documentary, and they gave this thing out, and they have them come up, right? They all come up there, and what you get is this from the director of the film, right? His English isn't perfect, but give it to him.
Academy for the award is such a big honor for the four of us, and everybody supported us for this documentary. About 2 months ago, I became a father, and my hope to my daughter that she will not have to live the same life I'm living now, always fearing settlers' violence, home demolitions, and forest spill displacements that my community, Masafri Yatta, is living and facing every day under the Israeli occupation. No other land reflect the harsh reality that we have been enduring for decades and still persist, as we call on the world to take serious actions to stop the injustice and to stop the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people. Academy for the award is such a big honor for...
Just for the sake of clarity, the Palestinian people aren't being ethnically cleansed. This is a lie. And as he is standing there, you realize, and John Odrasnik said it very, very well, 5 for Fighting. Virtually all the Oscar nominees and Oscar voters would be tortured and murdered if they airdropped into Gaza. Correct. Here is a guy who wants to sit there and tell you, once again, Israel's to blame, Israel's the issue, Israel's the problem. In that audience of people who are Jews and gay, they'd be dead. The women, your life without the burqa wasn't going to go so well. That's the reality. Not this silly little catchphrase of nonsense where no one mentioned the word Hamas. They mentioned October 7th, but never mentioned Hamas being a terrorist organization that has to be destroyed. Oh gosh, no, we can't have that. Hollywood is an unserious place, filled with unserious people, interested in unserious conversations. Very unserious conversations. By the way, some people yelling at me that I didn't see the movies. No, that is my fault. I haven't gotten out. It's been a very intense 12-month period, and I have not been out to movies. I have seen movies at home. I just haven't seen these. And some of them I have no interest in seeing. The Brutalist I'll probably see. But maybe the issue is not, my gosh, you're not culturally relevant or connected. Maybe we just make bad movies. Maybe that's the problem. We don't make movies like we used to. We don't make movies as good as we used to. Is that my fault? You're not making anything I actually want to go take a look at? I should watch it just because? Nah. No, thanks. I'm gonna pass on that. Trump has got money coming into the U.S., and he's got an announcement going on about that, and hopefully we will be able to catch it if they'll just stop delaying the thing. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, we'll be right back. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Oh, man. Get a little bit of ash everywhere. The amount of vacuuming I do. Incredible. So, yeah, still looking up some cigars to purchase. Trump's address got moved to 2. I do have the interview with... I pre-recorded my interview with Major Mike Lyons. Maybe I can share that now. No, I've got some other stuff to share. That's a good question, Mike. Why do I always offer the number to call in, but I never take calls? Honestly, I forget. I totally forget. That's why. That's why it happens. I'm like, I'm into the thing. I know, it's super weird. Should I take more calls? That's always been a big fight. Because there's some radio hosts and some program directors like, oh, you take calls. You take calls morning, noon, and night. You don't stop taking calls. And then there are some who are like, don't you ever take a phone call. Don't take a phone call. People don't want to hear from the audience. They want to hear from you, Tony. That's what they want to hear. They want to hear from you. Let's see. Is that on? Is that working? Or do I have to bring this on? Hold on a second.
Saying its contract for $2 million is canceled. News for San Antonio.
Story coming up in a second. That's preparation right there. So that's that. Let me go to these comments right here. The last movie this guy saw was Paul the Apostle. I missed it. I didn't see that. I did last night with the kid watch Venom: The Last Dance. I was disappointed. It wasn't great. I thought it was a pretty bad ending and pretty cheesy, and I don't mind a little bit of cheese. I am fine with a wee bit of cheese. I just didn't think it was terrific. And when I say it wasn't terrific, it wasn't very good. Nah, the first one's fun. Right. Well, you can never go wrong with Woody Harrelson. Unless, yeah, maybe you can. I don't know. Who am I to say? All right, coming back to the show. Looking forward to it. Yep.
Sear Doge has targeted a nonprofit based here in San Antonio, saying its contract for $215 million a year is canceled. News for San Antonio I-Team Waste Watch reporter Jay Avila has this story live from the Content Center.
Mandy, in a post on X, Doge said the Department of Health and Human Services had terminated a contract paying Family Endeavors $18 million a month to operate an empty facility in West Texas.
The organization is also known as Endeavors, and you may have seen its administrative headquarters and wellness center on De Zavala Road, where it has a cluster of buildings and storefronts. Doge focused on an overflow housing facility for migrant families Endeavors operates in Pecos, Texas, which Doge says has been sitting empty, while Endeavors has been receiving the $18 million per month. Homeland Security reposted Doge's X post, tagging U.S. Attorney Ed Martin with the words, "Please investigate," to which Martin responded, "Duly noted, we are on it."
To better explain this, as they'll get into it, when people are upset with Doge, one should ask what they're actually upset with. In this situation, they had an empty facility, but were still charging the United States of America $18 million a month, and they brought in a revenue of $1.1 billion in 2022.
I went to Endeavor's San Antonio headquarters today to get a comment from the organization. They responded late this afternoon by email. Endeavor's was responsible for maintaining operational readiness at the Pecos shelter, ensuring the ability to scale from cold status, operationally ready but not actively serving children, to full use of 3,000 beds as needed. Decisions regarding facility use and migrant sheltering locations were made by the federal government, not Endeavor's. Any claims of corruption or mismanagement are baseless.
I'm not even making the claim that they were involved in any mismanagement. They were getting the money. They were getting the money. If you argue that they broke the law to get the money, that'd be different. The problem is we put money towards nothing. We put money towards things that didn't need it, didn't require it. We put money towards things for the idea of doing good as opposed to actually doing good. Do-goodery is pure raw evil, guys. Do-goodery is the worst of the stuff. It's acceptable to look at this and say, we don't need this anymore. This is unnecessary. Well, what about the children? The children will have to be taken care of in another way because the children of the United States deserve to be able to keep their money, and all those parents who are paying those taxes and not able to afford to give their kids what they want, maybe now they can. So what about those kids? I get it, progressive left. You don't care about those kids. You have made that clear and obvious. I do. I care that Trump signed the executive order making English the official language of the United States. Good. And I continue to be baffled at this idea that we can't have an official language. Does that mean we outlaw other languages? Of course not. People are going to speak Spanish in the home and out on the street, and they're going to speak Tagalog, and they're going to speak Hebrew, and they're going to speak a whole series of things. Go ahead, man. It's America. Knock yourself out. But a government form should be printed in another language for you? That's odd. That's weird. That's a mistake. I think it was George Bush who discussed the fact, George W. Bush, that English is the language of freedom. It's the language of victory. And I would argue that when we create the hyphenized society, the dangerous hyphen society, right? African American, Mexican American, Colombian American, Swedish American, whatever it is. You're saying that you're something other than American, and that is a mistake. That divides people, and we shouldn't do that. How about just American? It's much easier. A language commonality helps. This is not about forgetting where you come from. This is about recognizing where you are and why it matters. So I like the move. I'm a huge fan of the move. When it comes to Doge and finding these issues, these places where we're spending money we don't have to, how could you not think it of anything except good? Now, you could have a specific instance where, hey, whoa, there might be a value to spending that money. Well, that's about something specific. But every bit of waste, every bit of fraud, that's all something that should last. And how dare we look, because that's been the argument from the left, how dare you look, which to normal Americans comes across as very odd, or you're profiting somehow. Now, there is another thing being looked at where the FBI is now interviewing EPA employees, Environmental Protection Agency, because there was $20 billion that was pushed to something called the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And that group is loaded with what? Democrat donors and insiders. This, according to reporting from the Washington Post, and then put together in a story by Nick Pope over at the Daily Caller. Of course, we should be looking at all these things. Of course, we should be looking at groups that were doing nothing more than being funded to provide jobs for people who sent money their way. You work in government for 6 or 7 years, you send the money to this group, you send the money to this group, then you retire and you take the job. The FDA top regulator gets a job as executive vice president of Pfizer, and we're all supposed to think that this is normal? No, this is nuts. And this is what Americans want to see ended. our money being abused? Nah, we'd rather abuse our own money. I mean, if anybody's going to abuse my cash, it should be me. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, so here's what's going on. So Trump was supposed to speak at 2. And let me see where he's at right now. Come on. Let me see if he has not started yet, but he will. So when he goes live, I'm going to bring it to you. That's my plan right there. So we'll take the break because we're in the radio break right now. And we'll be back soon. I'm glad you guys are here. Can't thank you enough. Be sure to like and follow, subscribe there on the Rumbles and on YouTube and on X in all the spots. Be sure to follow at Tony Katz. Would love that. Guys, we'll be right back. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. I sit like this, but the camera's like that. Does anybody care? Does it really have to be straight on? Can't a guy just move? But if I put it straight that way, then the whole thing gets screwy. Screwy stuff. Good to be with you. Trump is scheduled to speak right now. Let me see if I can bring that up right there. Let me go over here, and I can't do it like that. I gotta do it like this. Yep. Look at me causing a scene with my own laptop. There it is. Okay, so let's get rid of this right there. And they delayed it again. Good Lord, they are just annoying me to no end, aren't they? All right, so let me see if I can pull this up. Coming back to the radio show, and I'm trying to upload a bit of audio for you, and I'll start with that, my conversation with Mike Lyons. So you might not, you'll see me, but the interview itself got pre-recorded. Just wanted you to know that was going to be the case. Pretty interesting stuff with Major Lyons. I'll get to that. Make it happen. We have been discussing Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office.
All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if he can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
And that was just part of the back and forth that set the world on fire between Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, where, for whatever reason, it seems obvious to anybody who is honest that Zelensky wanted to change the deal right there and then and thought that a scolding, a lecturing, would do the trick. It was a miscalculation, even if there is an argument to be made about whether or not you could trust Vladimir Putin and any peace deal or ceasefire. Tony Katz today, great to be with you. Major Mike Lyons joins me right now, retired United States Army Major, gifts department there at West Point, where he is a West Point graduate and an observer of all things geopolitical and military. And certainly this conversation that we saw on Friday, very rare to see things this public. These are behind closed door conversations for sure. But let us dig in on this idea that what Vladimir Zelensky is trying to do is get more security assurances. As the layman hears it, how would you define it to them? What is a security assurance?
Well, Tony, a security assurance in this case would be a warranty for a guarantee for the United States to respond to something that Russia did militarily to protect Ukraine. But as I think the Secretary of State stated, it would be buying a warranty before we even saw the end product here. A security assurance right now, while Ukraine is in a war with Russia, makes no sense for the United States. It would get us involved virtually immediately. Even the most simplistic security assurances, what's been thrown around, for example, in past conflicts, is the no-fly zone. If you remember that, the United States could put up a no-fly zone over Iraq or over these places. But any of those things would be an act of war. And a security assurance today, that what was given by this administration, Russia would consider that an act of war. So we can't talk about security assurances until the conflict is over and there's some kind of peace settlement. Now, the other thing, too, security assurances are only as good as the country and the president, administration that's going to back them up. Unfortunately, the security assurance from 1994 in the Budapest Memorandum was not backed up by the Obama administration when Russia initially attacked and took over Crimea in 2014. So as that was brought up in that meeting there. But there are things the United States can do once this conflict is over.
Well, let's make sure we get back into it. Talking to Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army, West Point. A security assurance, it happens after the deal. What it does seem like Volodymyr Zelensky was asking for was a standing presence of the United States military in Ukraine right now. Would that seem to you to be an odd thing to say, knowing that a mineral rights deal was on the table, where if the United States is going to be investing billions and billions of dollars, they're probably going to protect their investment?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it went a bridge too far. So there was an implied security assurance or agreement there between the United States and Ukraine, but nothing that guaranteed U.S. forces would be there. And our president, President Trump, needs that in order to go back to Russia, in order to find out whether Russia actually wants to stop the war or not. We don't have any leverage, and Ukraine has zero leverage in order to get Russia to stop the war. But that could be the first question that will come out of this, if Russia wants to stop the war or not. And President Trump thinks that he needs this agreement with Ukraine to bind us commercially for the next few generations, in order to tell Russia that we're on really Ukraine's side. I know he said that we're not on anybody's side, but this agreement would actually align us closer to Ukraine. So all the posturing that took place by European leaders over the weekend, who frankly can't do anything, they lack both the manpower and the willpower in order to follow through.
Let's not hold on. Now you're digging into the second part of it. What you saw from the UK after the Zelensky-Trump Vance meeting, Zelensky gets escorted basically out of the White House. He ends up doing a hit with Brett Baer on Fox News, where it takes him forever to apologize to the extent that he actually did. Then Zelensky flies to the UK. There he meets with the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Big hug at 10 Downing Street, and we're going to pledge this, and we're going to pledge that, we're going to pledge the other. But you're saying that the Europeans, whether it's the UK or Europe as a whole, can pledge whatever they want. They can't actually do it?
No, they can't. They don't. I don't think that, first of all, they don't have the manpower to do it. Canada was in that meeting, for all countries of all things, with 50 fighter planes that they have in their arsenal right now. What are they going to send? 10 planes to support that mission? No, the kind of soldiers that are needed on the ground are 50 to 100,000 troops that would have to secure a very long border that exists between Ukraine and Russia. And you couldn't muster that number of troops between all those other NATO countries outside of the United States. They just don't have the active forces. They don't have the reserve forces. They just couldn't do it. Now, they might be able to muster more equipment eventually, but they're running out of time. They should have mobilized 3 years ago, or increased their hardware and military industrial capacity 3 years ago, but they haven't. You see Germany posturing right now. Oh, another interesting thing I saw over the weekend, too, is I don't change the subject on you, but the Germans are looking to the French now to be under their nuclear umbrella. So the French nuclear weapons are not under NATO. The French can fire their nuclear weapons at their discretion, if they like, to protect their country. That's part of that agreement inside of NATO when the French first left the NATO organization back in the 60s. And so the Germans are looking to have a deal with the French, because the Germans deep down know that as long as they have a nuclear umbrella from somebody, right now the United States, or if they get it from the French, then they're good to go. They don't have to increase their military capability. They don't have to do anything. They could just kind of sit there fat, dumb, and happy and rely on somebody else to do it. So again, a lot of posturing that took place there, but we're still a long way from any real security assurance that Russia will actually cave to. Let's put it that way.
Talking to Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army, West Point graduate. I must admit, I've known you a while now, and we've had a lot of conversations. You're a pretty even-keeled guy. It's a discussion of the issues. It's a discussion of the placement. It's some opinion on how who's going to do what. You sound animated. Was there something about this, what you took away from this Trump Zelensky Vance meeting as somebody who has served? Did it affect you differently? Did you see it differently than maybe the rest?
Yeah, I'm seeing it from, we really are finding out who is America first, and watching Trump's political enemies go against this deal just because he's Donald Trump is really now coming to bear. And it's now eventually going to cost lives at some point. I think that, to me, is my biggest concern from what happened on Friday. I think that the administration did all they could. That was the fault of that prime minister. Nobody walks into the Oval Office and talks to our president that way. I don't care if that president's a Republican or a Democrat. And the fact that you had the fact that you had Democratic senators talking to Zelensky before, prepping him up, basically going in there and basically saying to do that to our president.
Do we have proof of that? Because there were some people, just to interrupt, like Senator Chris Murphy, denying that ever happened. Like they were big on, like, how dare you say this? This was just an ambush by Trump. Was there meetings with the Democrats?
Tony, he 45 minutes before the meetings, he tweeted out that he had a meeting with Zelensky. So again, I'm just using his words, using what he said. So again, the fact that even occurred, if that's not a violation of the Logan Act, I don't know what is. Whatever. I mean, again, we used to have this foreign policy that would stop at our edge, but again, the politics are really now getting to be very ugly here. So I think we have to, that's what actually has me more upset right now. I do think that this president wants this to end, and we have to let it end.
So now we get to the place of what a deal looks like, right? This idea of what President Trump means. What does he mean when he says cease fire? As the military might look at it, or the world should look at it. When Trump thinks of a ceasefire, how do you visualize that going, and what are the best and worst case scenarios?
So a ceasefire, similar to what we'll see in Israel, is that first and foremost that both sides stop, and we'll monitor what the Russians are doing, what Ukraine is doing. But anytime you get another side's military to stop, they lose momentum. So that's the first and foremost objective here. So it's really baby steps. We're not looking to have them to surrender, or either side surrender right away, or go to this, kind of crazy, ceremony or something. But the point is, anytime you can get another side's military to stop in their place and kind of take a break, you lose momentum. That really changes the dynamic. So I think that's the Trump administration's objective, is to get a ceasefire first to start, then do a lot of observing, then continue along that process, kind of like what we saw in Israel, then continue along to the process where we see Russian troops disengaging or formal boundaries being set. But that's kind of, the first step from Trump's perspective is to stop the killing. And that would go a long way in order to make that ceasefire become a final permanent treaty or final permanent armistice between Ukraine and Russia.
So this now brings us to the very idea of what comes next. And I would like to get your take on Putin. A lot of people said, you take a look at this big fight and, Putin's going to be happy and Putin's cheering and Putin's going to feel terrific. I question out loud whether or not Putin wants this to end too, meaning he might, because they've had to throw a lot of hardware and a lot of bodies at this. They're a terrible army. They're performing horrifically. They just can outlast the Ukrainians, but it has not gone great. If you're in the Putin camp, or what you know of the Putin camp, I should say, they glad about this dust-up between Zelensky and Trump?
Well, it buys them more time. It gives their military an advantage. The offensive operations have stepped up over the past 2 weeks since this administration has gotten more involved with the negotiations. We know that is a fact. But whether or not Vladimir Putin wants to stop the war, we just don't know. Donald Trump, to me, is using Machiavellian techniques. And Machiavellian negotiation techniques, you actually flatter your opponent. You try to soften them up in order to bring them to your side. And Trump knows from a deal perspective that he needs some piece of leverage, and that leverage would be this Ukraine minerals deal. So that, to him, is how he's going to solve the problem. Because now you go to Vladimir Putin and say, look, if you don't want peace, if you're not going to stop this, we're going to turn around and give $500 billion of stuff to Ukraine. I'm going to get everybody mobilized against you. You won't know what hits you. You'll lose your whole country at this point. So I think that's Trump's negotiation tactic. I think he looks at Vladimir Putin as a transaction. He definitely has more respect for Russia as a country because it's bigger, larger, has nuclear weapons. He does look at them differently, and whether he can peel them away from China, I think that might be a bridge too far. I think that Russia has become this vassal state of China, whether they want to admit to it or not. And the world is now aligned: Russia, China, North Korea, Iran against Europe. And that's what, again, bring back to Europe. If Europe thinks that they're going to go this alone without the United States against those four countries, again, you could just forget it. Those four countries would eat their lunch.
Before I let you go, as I often say, before I let you go, and I keep going here, how will we see Zelensky back talking to Trump and signing a mineral rights deal? Will it be quick, Or is this going to take some time to smooth over?
I'm not sure he signs it with Trump. I'm sure maybe he sends, an emissary to get it done. They tried to get it done first, I guess, in Munich, and then they tried to get it done in Ukraine. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think we're going to go through this, bring them back to the White House adventure again, and then they'll do. And Trump will talk about it. But that's it. We're losing time. The Ukraine is losing time. What Zelenskyy did was set his country back potentially 3 to 6 months. And if he can't understand that right now, again, take all the politics about hating Donald Trump outside of the game here, or the fact that they have guns in their head, or all this other stuff. It's just, again, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand strategy, that thing needed to get done, and the mission could have moved forward. And now that's been a pretty big setback. But I do think it eventually gets done, not with the same fanfare.
In a yes or no, if Zelenskyy set Ukraine back 6 months, can Ukraine last 6 months against Russia without our help?
9 months, 9 to 12. So they could last 6 months if they had to. So maybe that's his calculus. And if he thinks he could get, again, Europe all lathered up to throw their support in, then go for it. But if the British decide to send British troops to Ukraine and they get killed by Russian bombs, is that a NATO 5? Is that an Article 5 violation? I don't think so. I think that has to be clearly established before Europe decides to send any kind of troops to this war while it's still going on.
You see, just when I think we're done, you throw in a new wrinkle. So now I'm going to follow this one. Really, forget. I don't care what you have to do. We're talking to Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army. You're discussing the fact that Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, said we're going to put troops on the ground. I don't know if he's speaking for the whole of Europe or if he's just speaking for the UK. I don't know what UK troops they have to offer to put on the ground. But you bring up a very interesting concept. What happens if troops are on the ground and now you have British citizens dying in Ukraine at Russian hands? I agree that's not an Article 5 issue, because an attack against one is an attack against all does not mean that we're responsible for moves that the British military makes independent of an attack. They're engaging. They're not being attacked. But can the British offer any defense?
No. NATO is a defensive alliance. Those countries have to be attacked. So as long as those countries haven't been attacked, there's nothing the United States has an obligation to do. Now, the United States could do anything it wants based on what the president wants to do. It could, in the War Powers Act, but no, there would be no obligation. If the British were frankly foolhardy enough to go and do that right now, they would take their virtue signaling and basically put their soldiers in a position where they're not able to protect their own forces, because the whole next level of security assurances start from the air. They're more air defense platforms. Here's a good example. Let's say the Russians decide to put 60,000 troops on the North Belarus border with 300 main battle tanks, and it looks like they're about to attack Kyiv. A security assurance that Zelenskyy wants is the fact that he can call the United States, and from the U.S., Ronald Reagan or the Roosevelt or so, that they could deploy 50 or 60 fighter jets in order to fight that convoy that's eventually going to come in and attack Kyiv. That's a security assurance, but they can't do it until they actually cross the border. No European country has that level of capability to provide that kind of security assurance to Ukraine prior to the war.
Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army, West Point graduate. I appreciate him being with us. Much more to get to. I'm Tony Katz. Guys, good to be back with you. Appreciate Major Mike Lyons being on the show. Yes, tickets are still available. Tickets.tonykatz.com. So I should actually upload. I've got the all new little graphic to go with it. We are taking a look at Trump's first 100 days. It's going to be hilarious. It is going to be the best night. Trump and American Reset in 3 bourbons. What was that, producer Landon? 1 minute heard. Fantastic. It is going to be so good. We have got bourbon, of course, Trump and American Reset in 3 bourbons. Look at that. Look at that. Trump actually said that. He said, do not disrespect Tony Katz. He gave him the thing. We're going to review the first 100 days. We're going to pair it with bourbon. It's going to be insightful. It's going to be funny. We're going to take a look at the left's meltdown. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. It's going to be so good. I hope you're there. Kokomo, Indiana. This is April 17th, and I'm happy to bring it around the country. Happy to bring it to wherever it is you are. Sponsorships now available because sponsorships are now available. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic, and I hope to see you there. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. It's going to be fantastic. There we go. So in Boston, a man tries stabbing a whole bunch of people. He is confronted by an off-duty police officer. The suspect is shot. The suspect is killed. This is what we know. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. The mayor of Boston, she wants to discuss her condolences.
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends of the individual who's been lost.
So our condolences.
So your condolences are with the suspect who was trying to stab people. Boston. Yep. This is Tony Katz today. Yeah, short segment there because I went long in the previous segment. Now let's see if they have got President Trump ready to go. He is supposed to be making this announcement about Taiwan Semiconductor.
What does it mean to be built with Summit?
And
it means you're hitting the autocross, drag strip, road course, trail, dirt, or open.
Making a massive investment into the United States. Of course, this can be seen in a lot of ways as the same conversation regarding the whole security guarantees thing for Ukraine. Taiwan investing in the United States is building the relationship in a way that makes it more possible for the U.S. to help defend Taiwan if there's a threat from China. I'm amazed China didn't make the move in the Biden administration. I really am. It makes me wonder why not. Why is it that China didn't make the move? What would have kept them from doing so? I find it odd that the easier time to do this was under Biden, certainly not under Trump. It's not easier to do it now. You already have the tariffs that are just pouring on top of you. Right? And I just find myself saying, wouldn't they have done it then? And then I have to ask myself, if they didn't do it at all, what if there's a reason? I'm one of these people who believes that things in China are far worse than they tell us. All communists lie. The Politburo, the Chinese Communist Party, does nothing but lie. And I find myself, there's this whole conversation about the population bomb. So the population bomb is you take a look at the Chinese population, you take a look at the one-child policy under Mao, you take a look at what you could consider economic growth that has stagnated, and they don't have the population to keep up. And because of the one-child population, they have an older aging population that will die, because that happens, and you do not have a younger generation to prop this up, and you go from 1.4 billion people to 500 million people. I mean, it's still more people than the United States, but it's such a massive drop-off. How do they keep up in the manufacturing space? Right? And this is supposed to happen over the next 100 years, just when you take a look at the numbers. But you also take a look at the numbers in China's population compared to India. And people smarter than me have done the math. And based on birth rates, there's no way China has a larger population than India right now. It's just not possible. So is China already lying about the size of the nation, the number of people in the nation, and the population bomb is already going off? And they're already losing population. They aren't 1.4 billion people. And if they don't have the people that they can force into the work, how do they manufacture for the world? If they can't manufacture, how do they get paid? If they can't get paid, how do they make this claim of all these wonderful things that they're doing for the society? And I find myself really thinking that that's the story. But you're talking about $100 billion investment from Taiwan Semiconductor. That's the announcement coming today. Tony Katz today. 833-468-8669, 833 got Tony. The more investment conversations, and by the way, the Dow has been taking a punch today. The market doesn't like tariffs. I don't either. Tariffs or taxes. So another 10% on China, the tariffs that'll go into effect as of, is that today? Do they go into effect today on Canada and Mexico? These things have an effect. Now, we've seen some movement because of the tariffs. For example, Honda, where is the story? I think it's Honda. They are bringing manufacturing on the Honda Civic. They're bringing that back to the United States from Mexico. They're bringing it actually to Indiana, which is where I'm at. That production, right? The Civic Hybrid was set to be produced in Mexico in 2027. Production will now be based in Indiana beginning in 2028. Annual production expected to hit 210,000. If you're the state of Indiana, you're smiling in a way that is hard to comprehend. 210,000. I am not so sure that's not going to mean hiring. There is the plant that does Hondas. There's one. Are they going to now build a new plant? Well, that's the question. Honda's actually playing it a little coy and saying Honda has made no such announcement and will not comment on the report. I can appreciate that. They don't want to say anything official until they have to. They may not say anything official until maybe they get a little, hey, we're bringing this back. What about a little favor, a little something, a little anything, a little everything? Oh, they go into effect tomorrow. The tariffs on Canada and Mexico go into effect tomorrow. So, by the way, that it can still all change today. But this is what people are going to say. Well, look, it brought back manufacturing to the United States. All right, that's better. It's better that it's in the U.S. This is where the market is. And if you're going to have a tariff of 25% on the vehicles, it's better that it's built here. Still doesn't mean that the price of the car doesn't go up because other things are made in other places. Tariff is a tactic to get to the better trade deal, but tariffs are taxes. It can't be denied. And right now, as we know, economy is not great. Inflation is exactly where it is, too damn high. This brings us to a piece from the Wall Street Journal. They crashed the economy in 2008. Now they're back and bigger than ever. And you're like, what in the world are these people talking about? There was a convention that took place at the Aria, which is a very, very nice hotel there in the Las Vegas Strip. 4 days of wining and dining and bankers and their clients. 10,000 people showed up. This is a gathering for structured finance, the structured finance industry. And you're like, that sounds familiar. And the last time they noticed like this was 2006 and 2007. That was right before the crash when people were selling mortgage bonds like it was their job. Guys, it's all just a little bit of history repeating. This is back. The structured finance is back. Wall Street is creating and selling securities backed by quite literally anything. Corporate loans, consumer credit card debt, lease payments on cars, airplanes, and golf carts. So people lease those as well. Payments to data centers. So now, instead of saying just mortgages, you've got it on all these things. Does this mean we're coming back? We're coming back to having the problems that we had? You already have credit card debt at $1.17 trillion. That's a lot of money. I do not like what I see. I do not like what I see at all. And the idea that it could be that people don't learn, not surprised by this in the slightest. President Trump now here.
Thank you very much. This is a very big day for a lot of reasons, but this gentleman is a very unique man. This, I think I could say in the world of chips, certainly, but in the world pretty much of business, nobody's done what he's done. Very, for those of you that are into that world, you would say, wow, he's a legend, but he is a legend, and it's an honor to be with you. Very great honor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Welcoming from TSMC, which is the biggest there is at a level that you can't even calculate, frankly. CC Way to the White House for a very historic announcement. This is a tremendous thing for our country and hopefully for his company. We're also pleased to be joined by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and White House AI and SIP, the crypto czar David Sachs, another two very highly respected people. It's great to have you guys involved. And David, thank you very much for coming on. David is sort of the king of intellect in that world. We have some good people. Today, Taiwan Semiconductor is announcing that they will be investing at least $100 billion in new capital in the United States over the next short period of time to build state-of-the-art semiconductor manufacturing facilities. I think mostly it's going to be in Arizona, which is what I understand, which is a great state. I like it because I won it, but I won most of them actually. But we won it, and we won it big. The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America. And it'll be a big percentage of the chips made by his company. But as you know, they're based mostly in Taiwan. And they're far and away the biggest. There's nobody even close. This $100 billion in new investment will go into building 5 cutting-edge fabrication facilities in the great state that we just discussed, Arizona, and will create thousands of jobs, many thousands of jobs and the high-paying jobs. In total, today's announcement brings Taiwan semiconductor investments to about 165 billion they've started already. Among the largest new foreign direct investments in the United States, Apple, as you know, made a big announcement last week of 500 billion, and we have some others that have announced. We have many that want to announce, but I don't have time to do all of these announcements, I tell you. But for you, I'm doing the announcement.
Thank you.
This will create hundreds of billions of dollars in economic activity and boost America's dominance in artificial intelligence and beyond. Semiconductors are the backbone of the 21st century economy, and really, without the semiconductors, there is no economy, powering everything from AI to automobiles to advanced manufacturing. And we must be able to build the chips and semiconductors that we need right here in American factories with American skill and American labor. And that's exactly what we're doing. As you know, Taiwan pretty much has a monopoly on that market. And I think pretty much is not a term that's even appropriate. They do have a monopoly. And this is a tremendous move by the most powerful company in the world. It's a matter of economic security. It's also a matter of national security for us. And at the same time, Mr. Wei will be able to diversify and have his a tremendous presence in another place and a very safe place. And I want to thank Taiwan Semiconductor for doing the announcement. And I'd like to ask Mr. Wei to say a few words, if you might. And I'd also like to ask Howard and David, you can say a couple of words, but maybe you should go first, because right now he's the most important man in the room. I'm sorry, fellas. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great
Mr.
honor.
President.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit nervous, so I have to pull out my piece of paper. Mr. President, Secretary Ragni, and David, I didn't know that your title, but okay. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. President to give me this opportunity to announce our big project in the U.S. TSMC is the world's largest chip manufacturing, funded by Dr. Morris Chen in 1987. It's now at the forefront of semiconductor technology, supporting AI advancement and industry growth. In fact, I would like to wind back the time that in 2020, we have to thank President Trump's vision and his support. So TSMC start the journey of establishing the advanced chip manufacturing in Arizona. And now, let me proudly say, now the vision become reality. In Phoenix, Arizona, with 3,000 employees, we are producing the most advanced chip made on U.S. soil. With the success of our first fab, so we are now very happy to announce we are going to invest additional $100 billion in addition to our current $65 billion investment in Arizona. We are going to build.
So as he's explaining, this started in 2020. Remember when this took place. So this is an additional $100 billion. They were already establishing a relationship here under the first Trump term. Now they're going to more than double it. It still doesn't change the economic reality of today. Things are still difficult right now, and they will be for a while. But these are announcements that Joe Biden never, ever, ever got to make. And these are going to help a lot of people say, okay, I think things are moving in the right direction. Certainly there's a difference between the way the CEO sees it and the way everyday Americans see it. The price of eggs, right? It's the price of everything. It's still too expensive, and it's still costing us. We can see, though, that this is a step in the right. This is good. And hopefully more investment will come. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Well, they're all still talking, and now that was a quick speech. Here's Lutnick right here, the Commerce Secretary.
TSMC received a $6 billion grant, and that encouraged them to build $65 billion. So America gave TSMC 10% of the money to build here. And now you're seeing the power of Donald Trump's presidency, because TSMC, the greatest manufacturer of chips in the world, is coming to America with a $100 billion investment. And of course, that is backed by the fact that they can come here because they can avoid paying tariffs. So the idea is come to America, build greatness in America, build for the American customers, the Apple, NVIDIA, that whole list that Chairman Wei gave in order to bring production to America. So we're really, really excited. This continues the most incredible path you've ever seen in these first weeks and months of the Trump administration of incredible manufacturing coming to America. The keys that the president has called out are coming here. They're coming here in huge size because they want to be in the greatest market in the world, and they want to avoid the tariffs that if they're not here, they'd have to suffer. So I want to congratulate CC Wei for bringing in this incredible $100 billion investment, but it's on the shoulders of our president, Donald Trump, which is why he's coming. So thank you.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, sir. Well, the products that TSMC makes are literally the most important products in the world. I mean, these advanced chips power everything. They power AI, they power your phone, they power your cars. And without them, the whole modern economy would stop, but they're not made in the United States. So for TSMC to move here is a huge, huge development. And we owe that to President Trump's leadership on the economy and Secretary Lutnick as well. And CC, thank you for coming here. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. So thank you very much. A big percentage of
I assume he takes questions now, right?
Investment will be made now. A big
Oh.
percentage. Worldwide, we had very little, almost none. We used to have a lot with Intel, but we had very little, and we'll be at close to 40% of the market with this transaction and a couple of others that we're doing. That's a tremendous leap, like a leap that nobody would have really said was possible. So I just want to thank you all for being here. If you want a couple of questions, ideally
Of course.
Yes. You're probably talking about 25,000 jobs, but it'll get bigger and bigger with time. Knowing this gentleman, it'll get bigger and bigger. There'll be no stopping him. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
In addition to the job, you talked about national security, and that's one thing I think a lot of Americans don't understand. Explain the national security aspect of this.
Well, without the chips and semiconductors, nothing runs today. You can't buy a car without them. You can't get a radio, a television, you can't get anything. And we thought it was very important, obviously business-wise, but we thought even in terms of national security to have this large percentage of the chips, semiconductors, and other things that they make, the most important product, and not a product that you can really copy. It takes years and years. You know, on the needle of a pin is total genius. I mean, they can put things, I mean, something the size of the needle, the point of a pin, they put information that is just not even believable. So if you would see this, it's just really something. Yes, Brian?
One aspect of that. Honda announced they're coming to Indiana because of the tariffs. Once again,
That's right.
bringing additional jobs in manufacturing. You want to comment on that as well?
Well, Honda's coming, and I told you about Apple that they're going to be starting to build massively here, 500 billion. And we have many other companies going to be announced, but we had many that have already announced. And no, it's going to be great. It's looking really strong. I don't think this country has ever seen anything like we're seeing right now. Now, the tariffs, as you know, it'll start a week earlier than the reciprocal, which is going to be on a couple of weeks earlier. Reciprocal tariffs start on April 2nd. And I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to go April Fool's Day because that costs a lot of money, but that one day, but so we're going April 2nd. But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words,
President Trump now taking questions after announcing the $100 billion in addition from Taiwan Semiconductor, saying that it will probably be 20 to 25,000 jobs at the start. That's the number that the president put to it. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. I'm assuming questions will get to Zelensky, but right now he's answering about the economy and the economics of these deals and tariffs.
Much better off building here because we have the market. We're the market where they sell the most. And so I think it's going to be very exciting for the automobile companies. Very exciting for, I can think of any, as an example, North Carolina, they had the great, I used to go there to buy furniture for hotels, and it's been wiped out. That business all went to other countries. And now it's all going to come back into North Carolina, the furniture manufacturing business, please.
Is the Ukraine minerals deal now dead, or can it be revived?
Well, I'll let you know. We're making a speech. You probably heard about it tomorrow night, so I'll let you know tomorrow night. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a great deal for us because, Biden very, very foolishly, stupidly, frankly, gave $300 billion and $350 billion more accurately to a country to fight and to try and do things. And you know what happened? We get nothing. We get nothing. Just gave it. We could have rebuilt our entire U.S. Navy with $350 billion. Think of it, $350 billion. We could have rebuilt our U.S. Navy. So he gave it away as fast as the money could be gone. And what we're doing is getting that all back and a lot more than that. And what we need, it's very important for this business that we're talking about here with chips and semiconductors and everything else. We need rare earths. And the deal we have is we have the finest rare earths that you can.
What do you need to see from President Zelensky to restart these negotiations?
Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us because, as you know, that's right there. That's the border. This country really was like the fence on the border. It was very important to Europe, and I'm not knocking Europe. I'm saying that they were a lot smarter than Joe Biden because Joe Biden didn't have a clue. He just gave money hand over fist, and they should have been able to equalize with us. In other words, if we
you knew the questions about Ukraine were coming. You just knew that was going to happen. And once again, President Trump, like, you got questions, I got answers. No fear of the press whatsoever. And Democrats know that the difference between Trump and Biden is so stark for the American people. They see it. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We have somebody who's awake now. Find everything at TonyKatz.com tomorrow, everyone. Take care. And for y'all on the stream, I appreciate you being here. I do. President Trump is going to keep going. I'll update if anything super fascinating gets said tomorrow. I appreciate you guys being here, being a part of what we do each and every day. Follow, subscribe, do all the things. I'd appreciate it if you would. And yes, tickets.tonykatz.com because the event's going to be fantastic. It's going to be so terrific. Trump and American Reset in 3 Bourbons. That is in Kokomo, Indiana, April 17th. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. I hope to see you there. A recap of Trump's first 100 days. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so terrific. You will laugh. You will learn. You will get good bourbon, cigars, food, all of it. I throw a party the way I throw a party. Tickets.tonykatz.com. I appreciate you guys. I will catch you all tomorrow, everyone. Take care.